Hey, beautiful soul. You're listening to the Rising into Mindful Motherhood podcast, your weekly dose of fertility wisdom. I'm your host, Dr. Katie Wood. I'm a barefoot mama bear, pharmacist, and integrative fertility coach. This is your go-to podcast for all things to naturally nourish your fertility, embody womb healing, and reclaim your feminine power to accelerate your path to pregnancy. My expert guests and I will be having intentional conversations to discuss the many facets of a thriving, fertile foundation, natural wellness, and how we grow and transform as women on our journey to motherhood. So let's dive in, shall we? Hello and welcome to Rising into Mindful Motherhood. In this episode, I'll be talking with Claire Innes, a fertility and egg quality nutrition expert. She's known for her ability to get real results, cut through the excuses, and be your biggest cheerleader. Claire can take the mystery out of fertility nutrition so you are confident you are doing the right things. In today's episode, we'll be discussing how to understand and optimize egg quality with nutrition. So welcome, Claire. Super excited to dive
Hi.
into the conversation today.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Katie. I'm very happy to be here too.
Yes, so I would love to start with, why is egg quality important?
Egg quality is everything, in my opinion. You'll be very familiar with it starts with the egg, and I'm sure a lot of your readers and listeners will be too. Egg quality in this puzzle of infertility, when it comes to quantity versus quality, quality is the one thing that we have some control over. And I think in an infertility journey or a fertility journey, control is the biggest thing that's missing, isn't it? You're at the hands of your treatment plan, your doctors, your menstrual cycle. You can do nothing about your age. So therefore, we can do nothing. We can't do anything to grow more eggs. And I think letting go of that on day one and just thinking, there's no point in me stressing about my age because my age is my age. However, the other side of the coin is the quality of these eggs. And if I send my energy, my research, my love there, then that can make a real difference, both in the kind of ability to actually conceive and additional protection against miscarriage. And I don't know if it's the same where you are in New York, but certainly over here in UK and Scotland, there's zero education about egg quality in school. And when I say zero, I mean absolutely zero. I was educated Catholic, so that there's absolutely nothing about fertility at all. But I know when it comes to egg quality, even in non-Catholic schools, it's just not something that comes up, basically. My big passion is educating people on the control aspect and what we mean by egg quality versus egg quantity.
I love that. And yes, in America in general, there is a huge lack, a very large gap in that educational piece. And I experienced that firsthand when I was struggling to get pregnant. I experienced it when I was pregnant. There's still just no educational piece on how you can have a healthy pregnancy for you and baby, and especially in the fertility space too. And even when people are spending thousands of dollars on IVF, there's still really not a conversation on nutrition and egg quality. And it's really sad. And that is why you and I do what we do, right? Because we're passionate and we understand this gap, and we want to empower women and couples on their journey. So I love what you were saying about quality over quantity, and that the fact that you have control over the quality, because I know for me, I'm like a type A, determined, motivated woman, right? And I
Yeah.
know that I attract a lot of women that are the same. So we want to be in that driver's seat and to be in control. And like you said, you may not be able to have control over the quantity, but you can absolutely have control over the quality of your eggs. So even if you only have less than maybe a 25-year-old woman has, you can control the quality of the eggs that you're ovulating. every cycle. So I love that perspective that you shared there. And you and I were briefly talking before we hit record, and I'm so interested in learning your perspective and your thoughts on how you guide your clients on how to optimize egg quality. What are your favorite ways and like, how do you look at it and how do you shift maybe your clients' perspectives on how to look at egg quality as well?
That's an excellent question, Katie. Understanding is where it all starts. I like to understand, I explain to clients what they need to know about egg quality, and I like to explain why I'm asking them to do anything. So I think a lot of people, when they first start working with a fertility coach, they expect to come away with screeds of actions and screeds of information. Truly, the first thing I talk to my clients about is their goals, their water, and their steps. We keep it really, really simple, and then we add something new in every week. Specific to egg quality, because as you know, I work with in nutrition, so I help women like optimize their body as well as their eggs and their mindset. With egg quality, I think it's more important than anything to explain to women what we mean when we say egg quality and the actual difference it can make. So if I can get a little bit geeky just now, would that be all right?
Yes, please.
Okay. Your followers will be very, very familiar with the concept of it takes 3 months to improve egg quality. That's probably something that you talk about, and it's probably something that they've read about. But the reason for that is that the process of meiosis, so that's basically from new follicle to egg ready to ovulate. I'm sorry, I can't talk without using my hands. So that process takes 3 months. We always thought that from we know when we're born, we lose eggs, don't we? And we always thought the quality deteriorates over time. But what's really understood much more deeply now is that the 3 months before we ovulate an egg is when the meiosis process is happening. And this is when the chromosomal sorting happens during the process of meiosis. Okay. We know for a fact that more than half of 12-week miscarriages are down to chromosomal abnormalities. And going back 20 years, it literally just wasn't understood that you can get in during this 3 months and you can protect yourselves from harm chemicals. You can take the right antioxidants. I loved your podcast a couple of weeks ago. Not just any antioxidant, you can take the right ones. You can nourish your eggs, you can nourish your body. That 3 months can make a massive, massive difference. So, to answer your question, my approach is explaining what and then explaining why and then helping them every step of the way. And much like yourself, I typically work with type A ladies as well. And type A ladies love a wee dopamine hit, don't we? We love to tick a box. We love to give ourselves a pat in the back and we love to track. So I have my girls tracking anything they can. As long as it's not stressing them out, we will track, 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 track.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you for explaining that 3-month process because it is one of those things that you hear about. You probably read about it on social media posts. You've probably read about it in books, hear it on podcasts, but really having that underlying knowledge of why that is happening. And even realizing that the cycle, like your menstrual cycle that you're having this month, is a reflection of 3 months ago, right? So not necessarily just a reflection of what happened within that cycle. So I think for me, I'm trying to think. I was sick or I had a really stressful month in May. My dog passed away. And my cycle a couple months after that was just, it was shorter. It wasn't the same. And it just really can show you how things can really play such a huge part on your egg quality, which ultimately your luteal phase and all those things. So,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So that yeah, that ability for your body to produce the progesterone and actually keep that implantation going. A
Mhm.
total tangent as well, but I can't get my head around how little we were able to research during COVID and during the virus, both in terms of what was happening to our hormones, but of course the stress element of it as well. And
Mhm.
obviously it was a hopefully, once in a lifetime thing. And obviously, all of the medical practitioners were very busy trying to fight this virus. But I am fascinated to try and understand more about A, the hormonal impact, and B, stress specifically, and how that affected fertility around the world. Because you'll be aware, healthcare around the world is just so diverse as well.
Yeah, and in hearing from some women, either after they had the virus itself or after they had the shot, it had an effect on their menstrual cycles too. So I feel like we're going to be learning for years and years and years now what happened, during that time.
I hope we are. I hope we actually do.
Yeah, we'll see, I guess. We'll see. But so you had mentioned antioxidants. So I know that there are a lot of things nutrition wise that we can do and control in terms of supporting our hormones and thus our egg quality. What are some of like your top hitters that you love? Just recommending to everyone across the board. Using our 4-step restorative fertility framework, we will 1, reveal the physical and energetic root cause. 2, we will remove the barriers to you conceiving and carrying a pregnancy to term. Number 3, we will rebalance the physical and energetic body with bio-individual strategies. And number 4, receive. You will nourish the mind, body, and spirit so you can receive baby. I have 3 one-on-one spots, and this is for the woman who is ready to claim her fertility back. She's ready to step back into her power. She is ready to do what it takes to finally get pregnant. If you want to learn more about this, find me on Instagram at @the_wellness_pharmacist. My Instagram is going to be in the show notes.
Oh, yes. Okay. So my top hitters, I keep it really, really basic. Typically, so my background is in menopause, and I have a lot of experience in working with women who need to reduce their BMI to qualify for IVF. So this isn't going to be relevant to everyone, but it is quite relevant to that group of people, and of course, ladies with insulin resistant PCOS.
Okay.
But it comes back to protein. I can't go half an hour without talking about protein, and that's both from cell growth, but also managing insulin resistance, preventing insulin resistance, and just keeping an eye on those spikes in our insulin. So even women who aren't suffering from PCOS or insulin resistance, they can still get themselves into this place where they're skipping breakfast, they're existing on coffee until lunchtime. Lunchtime might be like a slice of toast, or it might just be something really, really fast. And they're actually not thinking about protein until dinner. And very often, I'll speak to those women, and at the top level, I'll say, tell me about your nutrition. And they'll say, oh, I eat fairly healthily. I eat really well. And these women are so burned out that they truly believe they are eating really healthily. And then we need to go back and explain to them, okay, so you're not having protein in the morning, you're not having protein at lunchtime, you're tired all the time, and you're trying to set your body up to create a new human and carry a new human. You need to understand the importance of protein. And yes, I'm absolutely all for everything organic and grass fed and massaged by virgins, but I'm a big, big advocate as well of better, not best. Because for a type A woman, what will happen in her head is if she can't afford grass fed beef, or if she can't access organic corn fed chicken, I'll just have toast. I'll just have toast. So I really, really like to help my clients understand that there is a middle ground. We can do the best we can, but sometimes we need to just give up that we can't tick all of the boxes all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Back to your other question, another one of my kind of big hitters, particularly for antioxidizing, is berries. I'm just obsessed with berries. All berries, all the time, every berry. I love, love, love a berry. We have terrible weather over here in Scotland. Literally, even our months, our summer months of June, July, and August, it pours with rain most of the time. So I tend to just use frozen berries all the time, and there's absolutely a place for them in our nutrition as well. And then, of course, healthy fats. Long live understanding the difference between trans fats, kind of medium animal fats, and then, of course, our beautiful plant-based fats that we need to regulate those hormones.
Mhm.
What about
Yeah.
yourself? What are your favorites?
Yeah, I mean, definitely making sure that we're having breakfast first and really prioritizing the protein, the healthy fats for sure before you have coffee. And going back to what you were saying is not focusing on protein for breakfast or lunch, not until dinner. What I'm also hearing too, and I've had some clients who struggle with this, is then you're not even getting enough calories in into your day. And going back to what you were saying is you are trying to create life and your body is not going to feel safe or capable of doing that if you're barely eating enough calories to sustain your life, let alone creating new life. So I think it comes back to that too, making sure that you're eating enough for a grown woman and
Yeah.
creating that, it's basically like an underlying safety cue to the body. Like there
Yeah, it's
is,
the energy equation, isn't it?
yeah.
If we can take it back to that basic level of how can you expect to create a new life and grow a person if you're not sustaining yourself healthily at the moment?
Yeah.
I've worked with a woman, I've worked with many, many iterations of this woman, but this lady that I worked with recently, we really got under the skin of her food diary. And it started off exactly the way I described to you. I don't have time for breakfast. I'm not very hungry in the morning and I'm really tired. I have a coffee and then I'll have a sandwich at lunch and maybe some chips and a Diet Coke. And then I'll have a nice, healthy dinner. The dinner will be salmon, asparagus, and couscous. When it comes to actually analysing what she had, 3 coffees before lunch. She was nibbling on birthday cake at her desk, didn't even realise she was doing it. While she's cooking the salmon and couscous, it's grapes, it's this, it's that, because she's so undernourished and exhausted. A lot of the time, she literally doesn't know she's doing it. And
Mhm.
that is the effect of, you'll be the same with career women who are type A. They're used to achieving, they're used to taking care of shit, aren't they? They're used to getting everything done. And this is what ends up happening. They're just doing too much and they're exhausted and they're eating when they don't even know they're eating. And they're never, ever, ever snacking on broccoli. No one ever snacked on broccoli and didn't know they were doing it.
Yeah. And eating enough protein in the morning and the afternoon, that's going to help your cortisol, like healthy cortisol
Yeah.
levels throughout the day. So that's definitely one reason why she's probably feeling tired and just not getting enough food in general. So, yeah, making sure that you're eating enough, that it's high quality food. I love berries as well. And like you said, if you aren't in an area that is able to grow berries fresh, we're able to find organic frozen berries here in America. I don't know
Hmm.
if they have that in Scotland too. And typically,
Yeah, yeah.
I find that cost to be reasonable, sometimes even
Yeah.
compared to buying fresh. And I'm not sure if in Scotland this would apply, but here we have a website or a company. I don't really know what they are, but the EWG, the Environment Working Group. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they come out, at least for the United States, called the Dirty Dozen. So it's like the top 12 fruits and vegetables that have the highest pesticides. So focusing
Hmm.
on buying those organically. And then they have a Clean 15, which is
Yeah.
if you can't afford it all across the board organic, you're in a better, safer zone to just get these as conventional produce. So I always find that helpful for anyone who is maybe struggling with that. But I agree, when we have this kind of go all in, go big or go home mentality, it can be hard to accept, oh, I can't, it's just not in the cards for me right now to buy all of this grass-fed, organic. So I like that you think about that mindset perspective beforehand so you can set your
Mhm.
clients up for success because it can be easy to beat yourself up or feel like, what's the point anyways if I can't do it? You know what I mean?
And it's how easy for a type A person is it to get stuck in failure mode? This must be because I ate this. This must be because that glass of wine. This must be because I used to smoke. Type A's blame themselves and they will keep blaming themselves. So this is one of the things I like to anticipate and educate them on in advance.
Hmm.
Another good example of that, of course, is with endocrine and disrupting chemicals. I'll work with ladies and I would absolutely love it if they can replace everything in their kitchen with beautiful stone and glass. But frankly, most of them can't. So I say to them, okay, these are the big hitters, and I need you to look at your frying pan. I need you to look at things that you're heating food in, and I need you to look at that immediately. And then the other things we'll deal with as we go. What goes into your body first, what goes on your body second. So I think the prioritization process really, really helps as well. They like they need someone just to bounce it off of, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah. And almost give the permission slip for them to understand and accept that it's okay if you can't change all of it at once. For anyone who's listening, I have been on like a health detox, clean living journey since 2016. I just got a water filter this year. Like we've been getting, because we have well water, we don't use it. We would fill up our water elsewhere, but we just got a water filter. We just got glass water jugs to kind of like fill it up and stuff. So it's allowing yourself as you can do it, right? Focusing on
Yes.
what you're cooking your food in, what you're storing or heating your food up in. I like also what you're cleaning your clothes in too, laundry, because
Mm-hmm.
you're wearing it on your body. And then also like your
Yeah,
bed
yeah, it
sheets,
sits
you're
there.
sleeping in it, and our skin is our biggest organ. I totally aligned with what you're saying. Just focus on the biggest things. Like I'll say, replace your
Yeah.
body wash before your mascara. I don't know. That's just kind
Yeah.
of my opinion because at the end of the day, the mascara is not covering your entire body in something.
Yeah. Absolutely. I
Yeah.
love that.
So obviously, we've talked about nutrition, we've talked about some less toxic, non-toxic swaps. What are some
Mm-hmm.
other topics that maybe people don't think about can affect egg quality?
Oh, other topics that can affect egg quality. So of course we've got nutrition, hydration, our supplements, our antioxidants, movement of the body as well. So exercising, I suppose that's more hormone related, and you touched on it on your podcast as well. Looking at this cortisol link with HIIT, I prefer my clients to do more resistance based workouts because I really want my clients hungry, really enjoying their foods. I want to work on that relationship with food with them, and of course it's not bringing up and down their breath and their heart rate so quickly.
Mhm.
So I almost everything is future proofing. I want my clients resistance training so that they've got a nice strong back, so that their hips are flexible and they can thrive through this pregnancy. Because how easy is it for us to think, as soon as I conceive, it'll be fine. As soon as I get past that 3 month scan, I'll be fine. And yeah, hopefully you will be. But how good would it be if you're walking about with a lovely tall back and you come out of a pregnancy without prolapses and issues? So yeah, exercise is something that I'm really into with my clients as well. Many, many, many moons ago, I used to be a personal trainer and I specialised in prenatal before I got into nutrition.
Yeah, and I think that that's something important to get into, especially if it's not already a part of your lifestyle and in your habits, is exercising because when you are pregnant, a lot of times doctors will be cautious about you starting an exercise routine that you weren't doing before you got pregnant.
Yeah.
And it is really going to have positive outcomes on your pregnancy, on your postpartum, just how you're able to show up for yourself and your baby in those seasons of life. So definitely getting in a routine and since you had mentioned you work with people who have to lower their BMI for IVF, building muscle in your body, and I'm not talking bodybuilder muscle, just getting a little bit leaner, that's going to help your metabolic health. It's going to help so many things. And I actually meant to mention this earlier, not being hungry in the morning, that is not a badge of honor. That means that
Yeah.
metabolically something is going on. You
Something
should
isn't
be
happening.
hungry in the morning. And I do agree, doing resistance-based exercises, weight-based, that's going to help improve that for you. So I think that that's really great.
Yeah. It's so good as well. And I can get a wee bit woo-woo here, but just for that self-love piece as well, like having something to be proud of,
Mm.
seeing the change in your body. But it's it's actually very hard for women to grow muscle. So when I speak to ladies and they say, "Oh, I don't want to lift weights, I don't want to get all bulky," you would have to, I mean, I've been trying to get bulky for 10 years, and believe me, it is not happening. It's very, very difficult to, get to grow muscle for women. But when they're growing, the more muscle they have compared to body fat, absolutely, they're metabolizing faster. Their body is actually doing more at rest. But it doesn't even need to be resistance training. Quite often, I will work with women just trying to get them off their arse. And I'll say this to them as well. So I'm not talking about clients behind their back. My clients love it when I keep it real with them. How many women do you work with that work 60-hour weeks and they're like this, just at a desk the whole time? And I'll say, no, off your arse. If you're doing 2,000 steps a day just now, I want you doing 3,000 next week, 4,000 the week after, and I want you to report in that you've done it. And just having that little bit of pride in an improvement, it can make all the difference. And that can be the thing that says to them, I'm going to cook some chicken breast for dinner instead of calling a takeout because I've went for that walk and I'm doing really well today. And that
Mm.
kind of internal dialogue is everything.
Yeah. Not to mention how much better you feel when you exercise. I know I work from home mostly with my 5-year-old daughter, so I can get in my own little funks where I get out of exercising, but then once I get back in it, I'm just like, "Oh my gosh, I feel amazing." And I don't do 30, 45-minute workouts. I'm doing like 10, 15, and I can just
Huh?
notice just from that how great I feel and how much energy I have for the rest of the day. It doesn't have to
Yeah.
be this like crazy workout to see the benefit.
Oh no, no. We all, doesn't matter who you are, we all need to start where we are. We can't we can't start from where someone else is. Then it's like that picture of the ladder and you just can't get started.
Yeah.
What sort of training do you do? Do you train at home or do you go to a gym?
I do it all at home because we're about 30 minutes from anywhere, so I don't have time for that. I actually just got a vibration plate and I've been really enjoying that so far, easing into
Lovely.
it. But I do have a Pilates bar, I have weights. I love lifting weights and just building my strength and things like that. Not too much of a cardio girl. I do like to go for walks and hikes, but yeah, yoga too. Yoga is nice and stretching.
I wish I could love yoga. I appreciate yoga and I am absolutely bought in, but I still just can't force myself. I'm so used to just lifting heavy and going for the adrenaline that I've just not got there. For my
Hmm.
clients, I actually get someone else to do the yoga for them.
Yeah.
That's how bad at it I am.
Pilates is nice too. It's almost like for me taking yoga to the next level
Yeah,
where you're
yeah.
using like your own weight-based moves and things like that. So you had mentioned before when we were talking, sometimes it can be difficult to keep up with things, and when times are just feeling a little tough for people, how do you coach and motivate your clients when they're in that slump?
Yeah. When we're on an infertility or a fertility journey, there's a lot of bumps, aren't there? For some, it can be loss, for some, it can be a failed cycle, for some, it can be a menstrual cycle, it can be getting a bill for meds. There's a lot of things that can get in our way. And then there's the purely emotional side of it when your best friend mentions her pregnancy, when your granny phones and says, "When are you making me a great grandmother?" It's literally everywhere. When I'm coaching my clients, I like to talk to them about this when they're in a good place so that they can understand what's happening. So I really like to talk about the reticular activator, which is the part of our brain that's filtering out what's happening. So is this a visual podcast or is it just audio?
It's video too.
It's video too. So if we think about all the things that are happening in the room where I'm in the room where you are, our brain right now is exposed to, I think it's something like 2 trillion different pieces of information. So there's colors, there's smells, there's light, there's absolutely everything. But my reticular activator, your reticular activator is allowing you to concentrate on what I'm saying and it's allowing you to respond. There's probably 5 million things going on in your background as well. So if we take that one step further, and if we think about it like a kind of old-fashioned radio, like a gramophone, and we think about our brain being dialed in at any particular time. In the States, maybe your brain would be dialed into NPR. Over here, it would be like something like Radio One. But if we are in a bad place, our brain's job, as far as it's aware, is to find more things to make us feel that way. An example is if we're buying a new car, if we're considering getting a Land Rover. I wish I was considering getting a Land Rover. We see them everywhere, don't we? The classic case with fertility is, of course, we see pregnant women everywhere. We see babies everywhere. The reality is they were always there. It's just that we weren't dialed into them. I like to speak to my clients when they're in a good place or a fine place and really explain that to them and explain that down the line there is going to be hardship. And at that point, it's up to you to really manage your kind of mental environment. If you turn on the news, oh my God, you're going to hear some scary, scary, scary shit. I've literally had women before who have been my one-to-one clients, and I've said, unfollow every fertility coach on your Instagram, including me. Come out of my groups until you're feeling better, and we'll just meet and have conversations at the same time every week. We need to create an environment for our brain where we're not feeding it stress and fear every day. So the flip side of that, of course, is this rephrasing. I think you've done a podcast specifically on gratitude. Finding things to be grateful for is hard to start with, but the more we do it, the more we realize how quickly it is easy to find things to be grateful for. So again, getting back to your question, Katie, I think the whole understanding piece and being able to know in advance, okay, what are my triggers? My trigger, for example, if I'm in a bad place mentally, the easiest way to tell is not by asking me because I'm type A. I'll always say, I'm fine, I'm great, I'm wonderful. But if you go look in my spare room, if it's a mess, if there's coffee cups everywhere, that is the best way to find out what my mental state is. For other women, it's maybe they'll lose their sex drive, maybe they'll lose their appetite, maybe they'll drink more. But the time to really assess this, self assess, is when we're okay. Because when we're not okay, we're not able to look at ourselves clearly, in my opinion.
Do you have tips? So let's say someone is noticing, okay, I'm seeing all of these pregnant women, all of these pregnancy announcements. So you have that conversation with them when they're feeling good, when they're feeling fine. What are the ways that you help them come back, at least into a neutral spot?
Practicing gratitude every day. So the two kind of most basic ways to do it are ask yourself 3 things that you're grateful for today, or and I do this with my kids now, 3 good things that happened today, but actually writing it down and having that become part of their daily process.
Mhm.
And of course, as well, when it's the pregnancy announcements, I bang on about this quite a bit. It's possible to have conflicting feelings about the same scenario. Just because you're sad for you doesn't mean you're not happy for her. Just because I'm more sad for what I'm going through or what I've lost or what I'm grieving doesn't mean I don't want that joy for her. It's very, very possible to hold space for both feelings and for both of those feelings to be completely valid, more than valid at the same time.
Mhm.
And I think, again, like type A, I could talk about type A's all day. We love a bit of guilt, don't we? We love to feel guilty about things.
Yeah, thank you for explaining the science behind that because I think that it is easy to just be like, "Oh, find things that you're grateful for and write it down," but understanding why our brains are working in the way that they do. If you're in a bad place, you're just going to keep seeing negative, fearful things, and if you're in like a neutral or a grateful place, you're going to see more of that. And really, it comes down to what is it? Where your focus goes, energy flows. So like what you're
Energy
focusing
flows, yeah.
on is, yeah, that's just, you're
Or the
gonna,
opposite is like the mudslides. If you're in a rubbish place, the mud's just going to keep going in the same place. And that literally, I kind of point to my brain. I'm like, if your brain is just thinking same shit, different day, it's just going to keep finding things. All our brains just repeat patterns all the time, but
hmm
we can deliberately change those patterns.
hmm
But we need to be very deliberate about it. Waiting for it to happen isn't going to work.
exactly. Yeah. So being proactive. And again, it takes it back to something you have control over, right? We do have control over how we decide to react and respond and be in situations and having control over I am going to say or write out 3 to 5 things every day that I'm grateful for. You have that choice that you have to make, and that is a sense of control on your journey. So I know you have a freebie for the listeners, a fertility breakfast recipe pack. I would love to hear a little bit about that.
Yeah, so this is my own favorite recipe packs. It might have come across on the what we've talked about. I am not into fluff, I'm not into bullshit. So all of these recipes are really, really quick. If they take a bit longer, they can be prepped in advance, and they are the recipes that I recommend to my paying clients. And that can be downloaded from my website. And if anyone downloads it, I'd love to hear what you think, what your feedback is.
Yeah, and just remembering both of us value a good breakfast with the protein and the fat. So I'm sure these recipes are going
Yeah.
to reflect all of that. Your grandmother was not lying. Breakfast is the most important meal of the day. So
Need
definitely,
to break the fast.
yes,
Break fast.
download that guide and let the listeners know where they can find you, learn more, and connect with you.
Sure. So they can download the breakfast pack from my website, which is thefertilitymentor.org.uk/free stuff. And they can follow me on Instagram. My handle is thereal.fertilitymentor.
Amazing. And all of those links will be in the show notes. So thank you so much, Claire, for this fun conversation. I feel like it was basically like you and I were having a conversation, which I love. So thank you so much.
Oh, it's a privilege, Katie. I've been following your podcast for a while. I love all of your content, so it's a real privilege to chat to you
Thank
and
you.
hope to speak to you again.
Thank you so much for tuning in to the Rising into Mindful Motherhood podcast. If this episode resonated with you or gave you an aha moment, stop what you're doing right now and write a review. This simple act of kindness helps me get this podcast out to connect with as many women as I possibly can. I also have a special offer. If you send me a screenshot of your review, I will take $250 off one of my premium coaching containers. Let me know what resonated with you the most and why. So connect with me in my free Facebook community or tag me on Instagram. You'll find both listed below. Thanks again from the bottom of my heart for tuning in to this episode, and I'll see you next time.